I'm Bruce Evans, and my career really has been split between working in practice, in a community optometric practice, and doing research for the last 25 years as Director of Research at the Institute of Optometry in London. At school I was really interested in sciences, so I wanted something that was science-based. I was interested in healthcare because I think it's nice to go home at the end of the day and feel that you've actually helped somebody. And my first two mentors, if you like, in my life were my parents, who were both very successful business people. And I really liked the idea of combining business with healthcare. I was really lucky. My pre-reg supervisor was a guy called Andy Franklin, who many people will know. And he just inspired me, and I ended up copying him really and getting interested in the subjects he was interested in. I'd always liked children, so pediatrics was obvious. And contact lenses is a rapidly changing area, certainly was then, so that interested me too. And orthoptics is one of those subjects that once you get a taste for it, there's so many unanswered questions, and it's such a fascinating integration of visual processing with motor control that I just got really interested in those topics. When I was in my pre-reg year, Andy Franklin and I worked in a small group owned by a guy called Mike Revel, and he had 4 or 5 practices then, and when I qualified he gave me one of those to run in South Woodham Ferrers, which is a new town in Essex with lots of young adults and young families. So I ran that practice for a few years, specialising in children's vision and contact lenses. I like the idea that if you run a practice, you can help appoint the team and you can train that team and you can then really build a practice in the way that you want. And I was really interested in a practice that was ethically sound and that had a good clinical reputation. And I, at this stage, wanted to go off and do a PhD, and Neville Drasdow at Aston advertised a PhD in dyslexia and vision, which was a topic I was very interested in. And I wanted to move to part-time work. I knew of a practice in Brentwood in Essex, founded by Philip Cole, who was a founding president of the college, a very well-respected clinician. And his 2 colleagues had taken over from him as he retired, Tony Martin and Tony Tregaskis. And they were great clinicians with a really good reputation. And they just happened to offer me a job part-time at the time that I wanted to go off and do a PhD. And that worked out really well. The downside was I was commuting every weekend from Birmingham back to Essex to work in this practice. But the benefits of working with them more than outweighed that. And the deal then was a sort of gentleman's agreement that when they wanted to retire, they'd give me first refusal on the practice. And that's what happened. After my PhD, they wanted to retire. And it sounds bizarre these days, but they were such nice people that we just had a gentleman's agreement, had no solicitors. We put in writing what we thought would be a fair way to transfer the practice to me and a fair amount of money to pay. And that's what we did. And it all worked perfectly. We just got on so well, and they were so fair, and I tried to reciprocate and be fair. So that ended up becoming my practice. Well, I've been working at the Institute of Optometry shortly after qualifying, teaching in a contact lens clinic. And while I was doing my PhD at Aston with Neville Drasdow, the leadership here then at the Institute, Jeff Roberson and Judith Morris, they and I think the trustees wanted to move the Institute more into doing research. And so they spoke to me while I was at Aston and said when I finished, would I be interested in a part-time role at the Institute as senior lecturer, doing some clinics, but also building up the Institute's research profile. And that turned in 1998 to becoming Director of Research here. And over the years, gradually moving our research from kind of ad hoc research, which is what it was in those early days, to more of a doctorate school of research. And we've had 19 doctorate students that we've been associated with at the Institute over the years. And more recently moving on to more postdoc research as well, and we've got an increasing involvement in that. After 25 years of being Director of Research at the Institute of Optometry, I'm changing my role here, and I'm going to change to be a senior research fellow, recruiting to get a new director of research. And what we're hoping is that we'll attract somebody who's got different research interests to me. So I can still pursue the areas I'm interested in, but I think it would be good, for example, if we got a new director of research that's got an IP qualification, because that's an area we do need a lot more research in optometry. My new role here will free me up to pursue a few of the passions that I've kind of put a bit to one side over the years to do the research that's more important for the Institute. But I'm researching with a team at Anglia Ruskin another randomised controlled trial about the use of coloured filters for people with reading problems. So revisiting that topic with a more modern, improved study. I'm collaborating with a group at City, University of London, and we're very keen to do a randomised controlled trial of myopia control interventions. And the other thing that my changed role here will let me do is do more of the expert witness work and the consultancy, which I really find challenging and interesting, particularly the expert witness work, because there's a need there to try and get a fair outcome for the patient, but equally a fair outcome for the practitioners who are involved. And I really enjoy those cases. Practice is great because a patient walks in and a bit later they walk out seeing better. That's just a wonderful thing. That's a great gift that we can give people, and it's marvellous to do that and get that immediate response, or almost immediate response. Research is wonderful because you can help many more people in the long run, but a typical research study takes 2 to 5 years. From when you first have the idea to when it's finally written up and published. And that's a long, slow burn. And so mixing the immediacy of clinical practice with the sort of slightly slower process of research is a way of keeping sane and enjoying both aspects really of the short term and the long term. All my life I've tried to work with teams of people that inspire me. My favourite quote on this is Confucius, who said that if you're in a room where you're the smartest person, you're in the wrong room. That's certainly been the case. I've worked with brilliant clinicians, like the clinical team here at the Institute, but the people in my practice as well. We often get together, we're on a WhatsApp group now of people who work there clinically, and we bounce ideas off each other and seek each other's advice and help. And research is a place where that happens every day. You know, every research study involves putting together a team of people who will each bring something to that study, some expertise, some insight, and you want a diverse team of different people. And that's really been the greatest fun. And there's been people that have been mentors along the way, people like Arnold Wilkins, and in recent years David Edgar, rightly, in fact, since I was back at City as an undergraduate, has been a mentor, but other people like Raki Shah and Peter Allen that have been in many of those research teams. Over the years, I've collaborated with over 100 different people in close to 100 different research studies, and every team's been huge fun to work with, hugely enjoyable. The doctorate students as well are in the teams that they're involved in, they tend to be the most important person in that team for obvious reasons. And each of those brings to that team something that I wouldn't have envisaged they could have brought, and I've learned huge amounts from them as well. Yeah, I honestly think it's never been a more exciting time to be an optometrist. There's so many diverse things now. I mean, the way that hospital optometry has grown in my career is amazingly impressive. I look at colleagues working in hospitals and they're doing things that we would never have dreamed that optometrists will be doing. Myopia control is incredibly exciting. And therapeutics, I mean, there's now so many optometrists that are doing the therapeutics qualification for good reason. We're at a time now really where the NHS is recognising that patients don't want to go to hospitals unless they have to. The NHS can't afford for people to go to hospitals unless they have to. So community optometry is really in the right place at the right time. And there's a huge opportunity for us to help the NHS and help our patients by taking activities that hitherto have only been done in the hospitalised service and making them happen in optometry. And that's happening across the country already in conditions like glaucoma and MEC services, but I think we'll see a great expansion in that. It's really important that despite these exciting areas that the profession can expand and is expanding into, that we don't forget the core optometry. optometry. And every time I work in practice, and I'm still in practice every week, I will see a patient with a basic optical problem or binocular vision problem that they need to get a solution to. And it will be causing them symptoms, it will be affecting their quality of life. And basic core optometry, a good refraction and a good orthoptic workup are for many patients what they need to solve their symptoms. So at the same time as expanding into new areas, there's a great need not to forget our core activity because that's a way that we can help patients day in and day out.